Most recently, I had a lady, I think she's around 40, hasn't got a partner, hasn't met anybody that she wants to settle down with, so has gone on to have assisted conception on her own, fertility treatment. And she came to me having had I think she had two or three rounds. So she was, her words, financially, emotionally, physically drained by the whole process. She came for reproductive reflexology. It was very apparent her anxiety levels were extremely high. So I incorporated a lot of the fertility coaching, and we supported the mind, the connection between heart and womb. And she went away and continued to do them in between sessions. And then went for her round of IVF, and it's been successful. She's 10 weeks pregnant.
Thinking about starting or growing your family, but feeling worried about your age or past complications? If you're looking for a more natural, supported path to pregnancy without the stress and cost of IVF, this conversation is for you. Hi, I'm Terry. I'm the founder of Shine.Online, your international hub for holistic health and spiritual practitioners. I first connected with Ismi back in 2020, just as the world was turning upside down. We instantly bonded over our shared passion for holistic healing and our curiosity to explore what really works, especially when it's not on the mainstream map. That's why I'm so honored to partner with her and her fantastic podcast, This Is Me, Healthy, Wealthy, Inspired, to introduce today's guest. Bethan Parfitt is a fertility specialist and mind-body practitioner who supports women on their conception journey. What she shares in this interview is powerful, heart-centered, and may just shift the way you think about fertility entirely. So let's get to know her. Bethan Parfitt helps women who are trying to conceive by supporting their physical, emotional, and spiritual health through various mind-body therapies. Her approach helps them build the strength and confidence needed to take charge of their health and make informed choices about their fertility and overall well-being. Bethan, I'm so happy you're with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Terry. Thank you.
Now, what exactly do you specialize in? It sounds like it's fertility. Is that right?
Yeah, so conception and fertility and beyond is the way that I look at it. I work mainly with women, although when going down some of the fertility routes, I will work with couples, but mainly with women. And then we look at overall well-being and outside factors that are impacting on them individually and their health.
So, how did you get into this field of helping women with fertility?
I first started off counseling training about 20 years ago. So my eldest two, I had two, a boy and a girl. When I was 19, I had my son, my daughter at the time I was 22. And I didn't experience fertility problems. In fact, my son wasn't planned, but fertility wasn't even on the horizon at that point. It was counseling, it was working with people experiencing emotional difficulties. I worked with women's aid, rape crisis, things like that for a while. And then eventually went on to find that I was just noticing a lot of connections between physical health and mental health, unresolved emotional situations for people, and trauma being carried in the physical. And then I found Reiki, and that was my first experience of, I went for Reiki myself. And that was my first experience of spiritual energetic work. I was just totally taken with it, loved it. Decided to then go and train in Reiki, which led to other holistic mind body therapies. Reflexology was the thing that I was taken with the most. I love the interest with the connection, being able to pick up different things on the feet. I just absolutely loved it. And I was 35 when I started trying for my little girl. So I got a 15-year gap between my middle daughter and my youngest. Um,
And you
I
decided that's not it for you. You want another bundle of joy in your life.
To be honest, I thought, you know what? I've done all this work on myself. I'm older. I could probably be much more. I wanted to experience pregnancy through a more holistic way. Being young and having my two at a young age, I had them both by the time I was 22. And my husband was in the forces, moved around. So we were a military family that were away from our family. So it was all very probably stressful, enjoyable, but stressful, and it took its toll. So I wanted to experience being a mum by doing yoga. And by this point, I was into yoga. So I wanted to do yoga when I was pregnant. But I was concerned I wasn't going to be able to conceive. I've got an underactive thyroid. So at that point, I was thinking, okay, I'm late 30s, all the things that women are told, really. Your age is against you, your thyroid, all these things. So that's when I found reproductive reflexology. And it was while I was practicing the protocols on my own feet that I conceived for my daughter. So
Were you having trouble conceiving up until that point?
I had a miscarriage after my second daughter years ago. And I think I'd always felt that this other bundle of joy should have been with us. And then there was this overwhelming desire to have another child. When my baby was 18 months old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That was all feeding on estrogen. The reason I say that, I mention that, is that the link for me when I look back is that if I listen to my body, that body clock of I'm running out of time, I'm running out of time. Well, the treatment and the medication meant that I was put into postmenopause.
You were really tapped into your instinct. If you kind of got the message, if you want a child, now's the time.
Yeah, yeah. And so being hormone based as well, this is another reason I not only work with women who are trying to conceive, I work with women going through menopause or reproductive health in general, endometriosis, polycystic ovaries. Reproductive reflexology has protocols that you work with the body, or assisted conception, so IVF, IUI. We support the body the best we can through the physical with the feet. What became really apparent to me throughout my work was I can support the body, but how that person is experiencing menopause or fertility or not being able to conceive, their perception of themselves going through those times were big barriers for some of the women. And the messages being sent to the body was that it wasn't safe. It's not safe to
Mm.
conceive right now. They're in fight or flight.
You're saying that there could be a link to
It could
stress
be,
and the body and the mental and
yeah.
emotional
And
side.
I think we've normalized it to the point where we don't always recognize stress. I had a client the other day where I said, what would you score your stress levels? Well, no, I'm not stressed. And I said, okay, tell me a little bit about your days, your job, what do you do? And then she told me that she had two jobs. She had another little one, and she also helped out with her husband's business and things. And I'm listening to all of that, and I'm thinking, where do your needs fit into this situation? And I recognize it, as a mum myself and a busy mum. And like I said, my husband was away 24 years, he was in the Navy. So he was away a lot, but that level of stress and anxiety becomes the norm for your nervous system and for you. And you're in that constant state of fight or flight. And if that's the case, your body's priority is going to be to survive, not conceive. So
Yeah.
that was something that became very, very obvious, that I could be working on the feet with somebody. And I also found that which is why I offer the combination packages, is that I went on to do more work in a method called the fertile body method and the mind body baby method, both of which are methods that connect the mindset, tune into the body. And we work with meditations, visualizations, breathing techniques, and putting the person at the center of their own health and well-being. And in some cases, although the main goal is to conceive, actually what we're doing is, okay, that's the overall goal. Let's figure out how we support you right now. Because we're asking our bodies to do a big thing. Although it can be a very natural thing, it's also you're asking your body to grow a human. You
That's,
know?
yeah, that must be very taxing on the body, and your body has to have all of the internal resources to be able to do that.
Yeah. And by the time clients find me or come to me for, especially for fertility, they might have been trying for quite a long time. And the goal for them is to conceive. So breaking it down to find out, how do you want to be as a mum? How do
Mm.
you want to be, let's talk about you as a mother. And sometimes they look shocked that I kind of forgot I was going to be a mother at the end of that, because the goal has become so focused on conception and why isn't my body doing this? Is something wrong with me? I'm failing. And it's become a very different thing to the dream that they started off, which was to hold their baby in their arms.
Wow. So reconnecting to the big picture and
Yeah.
reconnecting to the emotional side of that feeling of being a mom
Yeah.
is so important, because I guess that goal orientation will in and of itself create stress.
Yeah, and I suppose part of the work that I do is working with women to, the hope is that during our time together, they develop stress management techniques. They also start to recognize their body reactions to stress, or when they're living in a fear state, rather than just being present, and notice when they're not grounded and connected. It's getting the balance, and they may have had miscarriages before. And I will say that some of that trauma doesn't always come down to just a fertility journey. I've worked with clients that have been through like sexual abuse or have experienced traumatic situations where they've lost connection with their body.
Mm,
They've had to disassociate and disconnect to survive.
wow. And
Yeah.
that will impact conception and pregnancy, no doubt.
Yeah, and then when they get to a state where they have conceived, then going through pregnancy, all those fears, all those doubts come in, and they're back to stress mode. And the focus goes from worrying about never conceiving to, oh, what happens if I lose this baby? What happens if I'm not a good mum? What if there's something wrong with my baby? And they're hyper vigilant throughout their pregnancy. And what we do know is being able to have a calm environment for your baby to grow in is a lot more positive. So then the work is working them through pregnancy. So I do maternity reflexology as well. So I can still support mums going through their pregnancy with reflexology, but I also support them then with my packages where I may do Reiki or mindset work, embodiment coaching.
Wow. So it sounds like you're treating the whole
Yeah.
person, the mother in all of her aspects, from the physical and the emotional and the mental and the stress, to really help guide her through a beautiful, mindful, joyful pregnancy experience.
Yeah, we're not developing these techniques or adopting this approach to control the outcome. We're not doing it so that we have the perfect birth. It's that idea of surrender, which back in the day I would have seen surrender as giving up. But, it's that total faith and belief in yourself and your ability to, okay, this labor, this isn't going the way I planned, but you're still able to be present and enjoy it and be able to appreciate it. And obviously, I'm talking very general. I know there are some very traumatic births out there. Um, my daughter was shoulder dystocia. I had a home birth, and this was the one that my youngest, I really wanted. So with all my yogi kind of mindset going forward, I had my crystals, had my water birth going on, and then she got stuck.
Oh no. Oh no. What
Yeah.
did you do? Like, were you still able to finish at home, or you had
Yeah,
to go to the
yeah, I
hospital?
was really lucky because she was £10 3, which had that
Oh,
picked up before, I probably wouldn't have been having her at home. But yeah, she got stuck and they had to do that maneuver. I forget what it's called, where they pull your leg back and push them out. But do you know what? I'm really grateful. Me and Bella, we were absolutely fine. And I do put it down to I did a lot of hypnobirthing throughout, and a lot of the things that I incorporate into the service that I offer, I was doing throughout. I took my mind to another bit. I was breathing, I was focused, and my husband was extremely traumatized by what he was watching.
He didn't do any of the hypnobirthing before you did, but
He didn't do it with me, so he wishes he had now. He was very traumatized.
do you offer any support to husbands or couples, or is it mostly just focusing on the mom?
I mostly focus on mum at the moment. Depends. Obviously, if I'm going through the reproductive reflexology is a lot more. We will look at sort of blood tests, a sperm analysis, working with a man who has like not very good morphology and low sperm count. We have protocols and we've had clients in, I know other therapists as well that have had clients that have improved their sperm count after 8 sessions. So, we do work with couples, so we support the woman with her cycles and we support males the same way. And actually, once again, on a more basic level, stress reduction. Stress reduction is one thing that reflexology does tend to kind of support really nicely. And that alone can have a massive impact on fertility.
Have women found that working with you changed the tides? Like they've had good success getting pregnant when before nothing worked?
Yeah, I've had lots of that. But most recently, I had a lady, I think she's around 40, hasn't got a partner, hasn't met anybody that she wants to settle down with, so has gone on to have assisted conception on her own, fertility treatment. And she came to me having had, I think she had 2 or 3 rounds. That one had been successful, and then she miscarried and
Mm.
then she had 2 more rounds. So she was, her words, financially, emotionally, physically drained by the whole process. She decided to give it one last shot, wanted to be as relaxed and calm as possible, came to me. She came for reproductive reflexology. It was very apparent her anxiety levels were extremely high. So I incorporated a lot of the fertility coaching, and we supported the mind, the connection between heart and womb, and we did a lot of visualizations. And she went away and continued to do them in between sessions. She had about 5 sessions with me, I think, and then went for her round of IVF, and it's been successful. She's 10 weeks pregnant. And, I can remember one session where she released some fear from years ago that she didn't even think was something that would be within her thought processes at the moment. And she was crying. And just before she left, she went, "Oh, do you know what? I never usually believe in this." And she said, but I've never felt so connected to my womb. It's crazy.
Wow.
And then she
Oh
went
my
on to
gosh.
conceive. Yeah.
And she conceived. What an amazing story. You were saying working with her, you found that there
Yeah.
was a thought process she didn't
Yeah.
realize was still impacting her. So how do you know that?
Yeah. So I do techniques with a client where I'm supporting them to connect to their body and listen to their body, slow it down. We slow the mind. So that might be through a body scan, and then we'll move on to a visualization. And there's one really lovely one, which is releasing a bird from a cage. So you take the client to this point where they're in a space where there's a bird in a cage, and they they interpret it's in that moment. I will then analyze the color, the bird, even the enclosure it's in. They give me the information of what that bird represents to them. And sometimes it's an emotion, it's fear, it's guilt. Sometimes I've had clients that I've had clients that have miscarried at say 20 weeks, and it's quite traumatic, but they want to have another baby, but actually releasing the grief for the baby is a fear that they're gonna release the connection that they had with that unborn baby.
Gosh.
And it's a whole other level. And we work around being able to kind of keep that connection or the love and experience that they had during that pregnancy. But also clearing the space to allow a new baby to have a space of their own, and to be able to enjoy being pregnant again without the guilt.
Hmm. Now, I can imagine that for someone who really wants to get pregnant and who may have had issues or problems in the past, there might be even more anxiety about, I'm not good enough, my life's not perfect enough, I've got too much stress in my life, and that might just snowball the anxiety. What message would you have for a woman who's concerned that her life's not perfect enough?
I mean, very often clients that are expecting it to go wrong, where they've had cycle after cycle of hope and then grief, hope, then grief, then they become, they just become trained in, what's the word, preparing themselves for the next hit. They're bracing
Mm,
themselves. So with that in mind, it's usually about not being too hard on ourselves. I think we're always looking for the perfect moment. And actually, our bodies are pretty amazing. We just don't realize how much they're doing on a daily basis.
yeah. I'm worried that some people may think that everything has to be perfect to decide to get pregnant and always put it off because life is never perfect.
No, I think many people that have gone through that medical model, it's all about, statistics and numbers and figures. And if I've
Mm,
got to be this weight and I've got to look like this and I've only got this amount of a chance. And actually that's proven to not be the case with the women I've worked with. I've had,
really?
yeah, I've had women that have been trying naturally for quite a while, but when they start coming to me, sometimes making a regular space to look after yourself, just check in with yourself and find out, how am I feeling right now? What is going on? Or just to not think. Just to be can be
Hmm.
the change that makes that very different. So how often do you hear somebody say, well, went on holiday, forgot all about trying to get pregnant, come on, I was pregnant. It's not, and that's why very often people get told, just forget about it and you'll get pregnant, which is not a very kind thing when you're really trying. Um, but sometimes that being able to stop trying to control the outcome and just allowing things to unfold. I mean, there's a lot of advice around diet and exercise and what you should drink and eat, and all for good reason, and everything has its place. I think when we start saying, I should do this, I should do that, I should do that, it's overwhelming, and the stress that that causes then impacts and interrupts the menstrual cycle, which then interrupts fertility, and it's a vicious circle. So I think it's taking the pressure off is the key thing, and not seeing yourself as a failure for not being able to conceive right now. I think that's another pressure as well.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to see times that are not successful as failure. Yeah, instead of feedback. It's feedback
Yeah.
saying, okay, well, then maybe we need to change the approach. So it sounds like working with you is a very valuable tool, probably early on, just when you're starting to think about getting pregnant. It might be a good time to just set in good practices right away and not have to deal with struggles down the road if you set a good foundation. Do you have any advice for women that want to get pregnant?
Yeah, many women find me when they're at the end of their tether with the situation, with their heart broken, and there's more likely to be a lot more stress on the situation and the outcome. Whereas It would be really, really lovely to just have it as part of the preparation. And I think sometimes adopting that mindset of not being in the energy of trying, but I'm preparing my body to conceive. So, you're preparing, and you might make lifestyle changes, looking at the journey as and finding things that are going to support the body to be in its most fertile state from the beginning. And when we're in our creative energy, most is when we're connected to ourselves. So things that make you feel like you. If
Hmm.
you enjoy going to a yoga class, or if you enjoy art, where do you get to express that creativity? Because after all, we want to create in our womb as women, it's that womb center. So when access creativity, how are you going to let that creativity flow if we're in our male energy a lot of the time and we're pushing and doing, and many women have, really high powered pressured jobs, and they're required to be in this overdrive and a very different energy. And I think, so coming back into that feminine energy and in receiving and allowing you yourself to receive, nurture and nourish first and foremost, so that you're pouring from a full cup.
That's beautiful. I could imagine that what women learn working with you can last them throughout their whole life, not just through the period of getting pregnant and pregnancy, but it seems like these are tools that they can use for their health and their well-being throughout their entire life.
Definitely having these sort of mind support tools and emotional tools and little habits that can just allow you to come back into balance can completely change your experience, because sometimes when our body has physical ailments, it can be triggering an emotional response from another time in our life, which
Mm.
will make that experience a lot different, and feel a lot worse.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that these techniques have helped you at all when you were going through your cancer recovery?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was going through the breast cancer treatment, I had 8 rounds of chemo, 15 rounds of radiotherapy. I had a
Ooh.
mastectomy, a lymph node clearance. So I had a harsh regime, and it was obviously having cancer is not anything it's going to be distressing. But one of the things that um, I really struggled with as somebody that works with a lot of natural therapies was the thought of putting so much harshness into my body. And I can remember finding a compassion for my body that I'd never experienced before. I think at the beginning, it was a case of trying to gain control in an environment where everything was getting done to me. And this is the parallel, I think, with when I see women going through IVF treatments, is that everything's being done to them. Their cycle is trying to be controlled. Well, I had a medical regime where I had to follow someone else's timescale. My body needed to react and respond in a certain way to meet milestones and be prepared. And my way, I suppose, of finding control was, what could I do to help me? I can remember one surgeon saying to me, just get a good hairdresser. And that was the compassion that I was shown when I asked, what could I do to help myself? So I thought, okay, I'm gonna just do it myself. So I would do reflexology on my feet. My meditations were really, really important. So I was having hot flushes and all the side effects that come to reduced estrogen, and sleep wasn't great. So having the meditation meant I was getting, my body was still having restorative space, even though I wasn't sleeping. And I just felt my experience, my mindset, my outlook was so different to some people that were with me. And that's not a reflection on them. I just felt lucky that I had the tools and the mindset to be able to do those things that supported me so well. So in that moment, I can remember being asked before they started treatment if I was done having children. And in that moment, you're just trying to live.
Yeah.
I couldn't think about children or not children. I had three that I potentially, if I didn't make it, where I was leaving behind, and it was very stressful. But I didn't have time to process that until the treatment stopped. And then the thought of, actually, I've just had that that was just taken without a thought process. So it was very important that I supported myself in other ways. And even like, I'm not an aromatherapist, but I would use essential oils during times where your immune system's down, when you're on chemotherapy. My eldest two were coming home with colds. Me, my husband, and my little one didn't catch anything because we constantly had, all the antibacterial virus fighting ones in the air. And I swear it was down to the other side of care that I was giving myself, and definitely made a big difference to me.
Wow, that's like truly inspiring. And it's so important to understand that if you choose the medical route, you really do need to consider other things to provide your body and your emotions and give yourself space to heal. It's not just one thing. I'm a true believer in a holistic approach to healing. It's not just one thing that will heal you. It's not one magic bullet, but the combination of things. And that's so beautiful what you did. It sounds like from our conversation, your passion, though, is really around fertility and pregnancy. And I saw when you were talking, you were just beaming, you were just in your element. And there's seems to be so few resources out there or limited knowledge available on alternatives to the medical option for fertility issues. And so it's so nice to talk to you to get to understand that there's so many other components to getting pregnant.
Yeah, we live in a world where we look for quick fixes. I have to be really clear that I can't make you pregnant. And that's not a patronizing response. I think people are really at a desperate point by the time they find me. And I think because the medical model will come from a point of view where it's you do this and you'll get pregnant, or there's this percent chance. With the work that I do, I will create a space that is nurturing and nourishing for a client. When I do the energy, I get more information. When we're talking, I can spot potential things that could be causing distress in the body or the mindset and the frequency that you're working on. But what I really ask is that when they come, that they come with an open heart, but an open mind, but also that real urge to want to make changes for them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, doing reflexology is a very
Yeah.
physical thing. You're
Mhm.
located in the UK.
Yeah.
So, what if someone's really resonating with you and they're not in the UK? Is there anything you can do to help someone online?
Yeah. So the sessions I do online are I do preparation to conceive work. I also work as a energetic practitioner with Reiki and things like that as well. So, that whole connection can be done online. And I find that just as important, to be honest, when I do my clients that come to me for reproductive reflex, I offer packages. I call it the feminine glow method. And we do alternating sessions where we do one where I'm doing feet and Reiki, and then we'll work on the emotional and mindset and coaching in between so that you're supporting the whole person. So a lot of the work can be done. And very often we have hand techniques that I can also tell the client to do so they could do the hand reflexology themselves. So those sort of things can still be done online.
That's wonderful. And it just gives so much hope because I don't know that what you do is that common in terms of supporting fertility. So I love that being a global community, we can connect anywhere in the world
Yeah.
through online. It just makes you accessible to so many more people. I absolutely adore that. Would you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the viewers today?
It's going to sound really hard when you're really caught in the trying to conceive. Being able to put yourself in the vibration of preparing to conceive can really shift a mindset. When we start to shift how we see our bodies, and when I say show compassion, it's I think compassion is something that's lost these days. And I think to be able to really appreciate what we've asked of our body every day and fill that cup up, even if it's having that nice cup of tea at the end of the day where you just put down your phone. You're not having everybody else's expectations or ideations thrown at you. You're just allowing yourself to just be and just connect with you and know what you like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And learning that self-care early on is so important because you
yeah.
want to be present and a better, more mindful mom because you've taken that time to give yourself that space and that compassion.
And I think as well it's being mindful of um what self-care is, not allowing self-care to become um, another to-do list that feels overwhelming and stressful because
Yeah.
you're not restoring yourself at that moment. What I always say to my clients is if it really doesn't feel like something you can connect to, then find something, and it could be having a 5-minute walk on your own. That can be quite meditative. It's about just coming back to you and being centered in you. And those skills take you right the way through when times of stress through motherhood or beyond any life transitions.
Mm. Yes, thank you so much. And to our viewers, I would love to find out what your self-care regime or techniques or tricks are. So please, in the comments, write what you have found has been the greatest gift for your self-care. And this will give ideas to other people. And if you'd like to connect with Bethan about fertility or getting pregnant, or if you know of a friend who's looking to get pregnant, we will have her contact information through her Shine webpage in the description below. Thank you so much, Bethan, for meeting with us today and sharing your wisdom and your guidance. It has meant so much to me to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Terry. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our viewers, we love you, we appreciate you, and we will hopefully see you in the next video.
Thanks everyone for watching, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe.